The Sturt Street UFS Pharmacy is now open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including public holidays. We even have a nurse available every night from 6 until 10 to help with minor ailments. 24/7, 365 healthcare now available at the Sturt Street UFS Pharmacy.
Proud sponsor of Voice FM.
Sorry, folks, I seem to be having a little bit of trouble with the computer at the moment. Never mind. It's Lynden Nichols here, and you can just imagine our wonderful music that we have introducing the arts program. And opposite me, I have Pauline.
I'm here too.
You are?
I am here.
And our guests haven't quite made it yet, but I'm sure they're hot-footing it here, Pod.
Yep, for sure.
Let's see if actually to start off the show we just go to a bit of a funky track while we're getting ourselves organised. This will be a track from a gorgeous album called Voussoir, The Source of Life. I've played it a couple of years ago, I think. It's by Valanga and Andrea Koza, and they just play gorgeous African music. Let's go to track number 2 called Matolo. That was the gorgeous Valanga and Andrea Koza with Matolo from their album Voussoir.
That was really beautiful. I hope we hear some more of that tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Andrea Koza used to, or not used to, but she has headed up the Millennium Chorus with huge, that Stella Savvy has also done in Melbourne, and Valanga has travelled to Ballarat and taken workshops a few years ago with really inspiring and rhythmical African singing. It's great. So thank you, you two. You're listening to the arts program with me, Lynden Nichols, and Pauline O'Shaughnessy. Dowling. Hello, Pod.
Hi, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
Wednesday's a busy day for both of us, isn't it?
It is. It's a bit hectic, really. Yeah. And, of course, Voice FM very excitedly is going to be moving studios they're hoping, by the beginning of December.
Well, apparently it's all on schedule, so
that's what we hear. So until then, folks, I think just every now and then there might be just a few little glitches here in the studio. I probably shouldn't say that, but Pod and I are so experienced we can cope with it.
We can cope. Yeah, we can cope with anything, really.
We can.
Yeah.
Tell us what's on, Pod.
Well, I promised the ladies from the Buninyong Art Prize and Exhibition that I would remind people that inaugural prize and exhibition is coming up on the weekend of Friday the 25th, Saturday the 26th and Sunday the 27th of October.
So that's not this weekend but the next one?
But the next. So inaugural art prize, there was a call out for art recently, and so there'll be a prize awarded and there will be an exhibition from which you can buy art. There's a gala night opening on Friday the 25th of October from 7pm till 9pm at the Buninyong Town Hall, which will be fun. It's $5 entry, and then you get a glass of champagne and some nibblies. Oh. And then on the Saturday and Sunday, the exhibition is open from 10am until 4pm. So that's the Friday the 25th is the gala opening, Saturday the 26th from 10am till 4pm, and Sunday the 27th of October, 10am till 4pm. Get along to that one, folks, and support that because that's brand new.
Is that part of a bigger Buninyong festival?
It might actually be, yes.
I think it is.
I think you're right. So get along and see that. There'll be, lots of affordable art and, a great event and an opportunity to look at what local artists are making. And just a good fun event to get to.
And often people who we haven't seen their works, people perhaps unknown to us put works into things like that. So it's a good opportunity to broaden our horizons.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the gala night's Friday the 25th, so that should be a lot of fun, that one. And I also want to remind people too about the Smythesdale Arts and Music Fiesta. So we had Barry Weems and Megan Riedel on the show last week talking about all sorts of activities that are happening at that. Now that's this Sunday, the 20th of October, from 11am till 4pm out in Smythesdale, which really isn't that far from Ballarat. It's only about 19 kilometres, I think. So at that fiesta, there's going to be art, music, poetry, art workshops, stalls. You can play pétanque. There's going to be an open mic event as well, so you can get involved in lots of ways, making art or singing or making music or...
and there's some sort of poetry slam thing Megan was telling us about?
Yeah, poetry slam with Megan Riedel as well. So that's just the one day, this Sunday, the 20th of October from 11 till 4. So that'll be great.
And if you remember back to the weather, of course you all got it off by heart now, haven't you?
What is the weather for
Unlike
Sunday?
me, I've got it written down in front of me. So the weather on Sunday it'll be a bit chilly, but maximum 15.
Yep.
Very, very minimal chance of rain.
Yep.
So it'll be perfect.
It'll be a good day. Yeah, that'll be fun. So, and we just want to congratulate Barry Weems on bringing that together as well. So that's no mean feat to be sort of bringing something like that together.
No,
So,
it's heaps of organisation.
Fantastic. Did you want to do something next?
Well,
or
I've got
like
a couple
keep
of things.
talking?
Well, I just want to remind people too, actually, of something that I did mention it last week, but it's not happening until October the 30th. It's at the Mallow Hotel, and it's called Left of the Cleek. I sort of like the sound of this. I'm going to be away on that date, though. But it's between 6 and 8 p.m, and it's part of a thing called Ballarat Zeitgeist. And it's creativity for real change, a new idea for Ballarat. And so people, I think it's sort of a semi-workshop working together to try and think how the arts can contribute to real change happening in the community. And they really want things to happen. So people are going to, I think the idea is they're going to get into small groups and discuss ideas for little projects.
Yes.
And,
they're great to go to, those kinds of things, because you can just let your creativity go absolutely wild.
Yeah, I know. You
Yeah.
can say your really weirdest, absolutely absurd ideas, some of which might come off, you know. So once again, that's called Left of the Cleek. It's going to be at the Mallow Hotel on October the 30th, which I think is a Sunday maybe, from 6 till 8. And it is $10 to be part of that, but gee...
October the 30th is a Wednesday.
A Wednesday. It's going to be a little think tank.
Yeah, great fun. And you're working in groups, so any of those ideas that you have can just kind of really explode. But not only that, they can actually come together as well, like with those teams.
Yeah.
You can bring these ideas to fruition, so that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Terrific.
And another little thing, Pod, on Tuesday, so the day before, this is all next week, or the week after maybe.
There's a lot happening between now and the end of October,
There's a
isn't there?
lot happening. People are scrunching everything into this spring sort of time. Tuesday, October the 29th, there's another event organised jointly by the Art Gallery of Ballarat and the Arts and Culture Unit of the City of Ballarat. They're working together to have all these seminars and workshops that are useful for arts people. And this one on October the 29th between 6 and 9 p.m. at the gallery is called Finance Essentials for Creatives. So it's things like, how do you get an ABN? What do you do about GST?
Yes.
And those two things are really important to know about. And if you don't know, you need someone to ask.
Yeah.
So you can go along to that workshop and not feel a total ninny.
Oh, well, you could actually, some of the stuff you can kind of get reminders about as well. Like even if you already sort of think you know it, it's a good idea sometimes to go along and just get little reminders as well. Pick up new hints. You know, things can change a little bit in that respect, and it's good to keep up to date.
And you put it on your to-do list, don't you? You know?
Absolutely.
We're chatting away here because our first guest was Fiona Sweet from the Photo Biennale, but I think Fiona's so busy that it's the last week. I'm just looking in this booklet, what's on this little bit.
And of course, one of the reasons, as you just mentioned, that we were having, although Fiona's a regular guest, one of the reasons that we were having Fiona on this week is because, as you mentioned, it is the last week of the photo biennale. I can hardly believe it. So it ends this Sunday, the 20th of October. So, folks, if you've missed out on anything, you need to get out and about in the next few days and make sure that you get along and check everything out.
There is a final party that's on the Saturday night.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I'm pretty sure just anybody can go along. There's going to be music, a lot of dancing.
I imagine that would be at the Mining Exchange.
I think it is at the Mining Exchange.
Yep.
So just go onto the BIFB
That's the best thing to do.
website and find out what's going on.
Yep.
Let's just go to the city, a couple of announcements, and Pod and I will be back perhaps with a little bit more of what's on and a little bit
I've got a
more
special
music.
message from Rex Hardware when we come back.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
How exciting.
Yes.
All right.
Recycling in Ballarat is changing. Be one of the thousands of people in Ballarat who recycle the right way. No glass in recycling bins. To recycle your glass, take it to a free glass drop-off site across Ballarat at Alfred Square, Ballarat Greyhound Racing Club, Buninyong, Gillies Street Transfer Station, Lucas, Midvale Shopping Complex, Miners Rest General Store and Stockland Wendouree. More locations coming soon. Recycling in Ballarat is changing. A message from the City of Ballarat and Community Radio, Voice FM. Caring for the community.
You know, we're different.
Well, you're a bit weird, but I think I'm pretty normal.
No, I mean, community radio is different. Here we are playing hardcore music. The other presenters do country, the all Aussie music hour, 70s and 80s, new releases.
Smooth music.
And more. There's local news and information. We even have a 13-year-old presenter doing their own show weekly.
Whoa, you're right. We are different. Community radio. It's different.
Hello, it's Lynden back again. I don't know if I like to consider myself being different or the same as lots of people. Anyway, this is community radio that you're listening to, which means that there's a heap of all sorts of different people who present programs with those people have different interests, so the flavour of their programs is very various, as you will experience if you listen to this this, not brainwave, what's it called? Radio wave, something just dropped down from the wall. Never mind. Let's go to another track from Voussoir, The Source of Life, and then Pod and I will be back with a little bit more of what's on. Let's go to, tell us a number between 1 and 10, Pod.
7.
7, okay. That is actually a track called Voussoir. That was another track from the gorgeous album called Voussoir. It was actually the track that's called Voussoir from Valanga and Andrea Koza. You're listening to 99.9 Voice FM, the arts program, which we usually call TAP. And I'm Lynden, and over there's Pod.
I'm Pod, yeah.
And Pod, we had a text message from our technician. Do we call him that?
Well, we've been lucky enough, haven't we, to have Rex Hardware come on board and help us with some technical stuff, which is great because
he's Mr. Technical.
He's Mr. Tech Head, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, Rex has been bought a few YouTube recordings, so we've been able to share the program a few weeks, which has been terrific, actually. So we've just received a message from him about the Leonard Cohen night, which was on recently, I think, at the Mechanics Institute, was it?
Oh, yes, it was fantastic.
Yeah, so
I went, Pod. It was
you went
just
to that.
Fantastic.
And so next week, we're actually going to feature a track recorded from that show on the arts program next week. So I've heard that it was a great night, and of course the tunes of Leonard Cohen are beautiful. And the name of the band is Tea and Oranges, isn't that right? That you
Yes,
heard?
yeah.
So of course,
so
which
it was
is the
Chris,
name of
Chris and Jenny Brennan and
Yeah.
another singer who I can't remember her
Yeah.
name, but all three of them were brilliant.
Yeah.
And Chris Brennan even looked like Leonard Cohen.
Oh.
He just had that sort of long,
Yeah,
drawn
and the
face
hat and
with the
everything, of
hat
course. And the suit.
and the suit.
Yeah.
And Hap Haywood sang a couple of numbers, and Hap's coming on with Mary next week, I think.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was lovely.
So that'll be something to listen into for next week as well. So we'll have a recording from that Leonard Cohen night, which was on recently. So thanks, Rex. We appreciate that very much.
Great. I'll just say a couple more what's on before we go to our first guest for tonight, Pod.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Just a reminder for folks that something pretty interesting and a bit different is happening at Backspace at the moment. We've talked about this show before on air, but it's a joint show between Rachel Gross, who is a jeweller.
Yes. She's been on
And
the show before.
She has. And Catherine Ratcliffe, who I've known Catherine's work as a leather worker. She actually sort of tattoos, I think the process is called, into leather.
Yes.
But this is actually some paintings of her works. And so the two of them have got a show together, and which is sort of an interesting combination. That's at Backspace at the moment. Now, Pod, I don't know the answer to this. I'm wondering if you do.
Mm-hmm.
Is Backspace, now that you enter Backspace from the gallery, is that open all gallery hours now, or is it still Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Well,
Sunday?
that's a good point. I don't know the answer to that. I must find out.
We
That
need
is a
to find out.
huge gap in my knowledge.
Yes, me too. So, because there is a door, as many of us know, that separates Backspace from the main gallery, which could well be closed on...
I'll see if I can find out before the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. That'll be a good little project for me.
Okay. Don't desert me, though, Pod.
Oh, God, no.
But, so a lot of people may not know that you now actually enter Backspace from the gallery.
Yes.
So it's not
Yeah.
from Alfred Deakin Place.
Yeah.
And one more thing, Pod, and then maybe we can invite Telina Edwards in, which will be terrific. On October the 24th, there's a compassionate poetry slam at the Lost Ones between 7 and 10 p.m. There seems to be a compassion Ballarat movement or something.
We've signed, the City of Ballarat have signed I'll have to find out exactly what it is too, like some kind of a charter as well to join the kind of worldwide compassion network, something along those lines. So
Okay.
there is a compassionate Ballarat group that is they talk about how do you make compassionate cities? What can you do to make
right.
cities just more, I suppose human friendly and what have you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pod's just going to nip out and invite Telina in. But I think that's a great idea to have a poetry slam that's based on compassionate words, compassionate ideas. So apparently people who can write a poem and go along to the poetry slam and say their poem, or you can just turn up to listen to a compassionate poem at the Compassionate Poetry Slam at the Lost Ones between 7 and 10 on October the 24th. I like that. It reminds me a little bit, Pod, of a few years ago I did a project with storytelling from Minerva. Minerva, on top of the Mechanics Institute, she spoke to the people.
Yes.
And the brief for the writers was that it had to be a good moral story. And a few people laughed at me, but mostly people thought that was a good idea because, things like trust, compassion, empathy.
Well, of course, they were the things that the great thinkers talked about moral issues.
That's
and
right.
about how we interact as humans. Once upon a time, it was very fashionable to speak in that way. And to
It
think
was, and I
that
think
way.
we've lost a bit of that part.
I agree with you.
So,
And it makes me very happy to hear more talk about compassion and how we treat each other. Wouldn't you agree, Telina Edwards?
Absolutely.
You're nodding over.
Telina is nodding. And welcome to the studio, Telina Edwards.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And you're doing a really exciting thing at the moment.
I am.
A colourful thing.
It's an incredibly exciting project that's completely different to my everyday world.
So, I'm wondering whether to start with your everyday world or the exciting project. Tell us a little bit about your everyday, what you normally do.
Well, my everyday world is running an architectural practice here in Ballarat. We focus on sustainable homes and are always thinking about better ways to improve our homes for the future. And yeah, that's what we do. I also have a family, young family, so I have kids, and that is my other half of my life. So
Yes, right. But actually, I'm sure living in a family situation would inform you about how to create sustainable and suitable houses for family life. Would you say that's true?
absolutely, it really helps with our clients to understand how their families might want to live in their homes, but also having that real awareness of designing for the future generations and what is their future going to look like, and will our homes still be comfortable and energy efficient and flexible and adaptable for them in the future, because what we build now is going to be around 50, 100 years, and often that's not considered.
That's right. And would you say that things that you're designing now and the sorts of issues that you feel are important to consider, is that different from what you learnt at uni when you were going through your course?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Architecture's such a broad curriculum at university, because we cover art and science, construction, history, theory, engineering, the creative side. It's so broad, which is fantastic learning, because there's a lot of creative thinking involved in design thinking. But there wasn't necessarily a lot about building science, energy efficiency, preparing for climate change. But that was definitely where I was interested in, and healthy homes, healthy people.
So where have you had to go to source material that's fed you that information that you needed?
I suppose I love learning, and it's a continuing, evolving journey. So found uni touched on it, but I've definitely made that more my path and done extra courses and studies and become a certified passive house designer, because that's going
Certified
to be...
what?
It's called Certified Passive House Designer, and these are the most energy efficient buildings in the world. Use 90% less energy to heat or cool homes. Basically, you don't need much heating or cooling at all, which it seems incredible here in Ballarat. Here in Ballarat. But, our extremes of temperature are getting more extreme. It's going to get colder.
So that's getting a bit more challenging in a way.
Yeah.
So you do things like, my basic, absolutely ordinary person knowledge would be that you face the house in a certain way.
Absolutely, yeah. Understanding how the orientation works on the site, so you understand where the sun rises and where it sets and where you're facing during the day. So in winter you can maximise the warmth of the sun when it shines, and also shade your house from the heat in summer. With the certified passive house, it goes a step further in terms of building science and airtightness and
materials used.
Materials, a little bit continuous insulation the whole way around, so it's like an esky, but just so it's super comfortable. And most of our homes are wooden tents, really. So it's futuristic buildings here today.
And are most of your clients from Ballarat and building around Ballarat?
Yeah, we work generally within about a hour, we say about 100-kilometre radius, so generally in the region. We don't sort of travel to the city or anything, but all over.
I think, I'm sort of interested in architecture.
Oh, it's a fascinating area. Yeah.
And you said just before something about creative skills and design skills. How are they different, Telina? Or tease that out a bit for me.
Oh, difference between creativity and design. I don't know.
Because surely creativity would be part of design, wouldn't it?
I think they're really linked, and I was wondering if you were segueing to the other project then. I think that the creativity and innovative thinking is really important, and a lot of architectural students go on and do a bunch of different stuff using those skills, because we have to be problem solvers.
Yeah.
We have to identify problems and find solutions, and it's not always one answer.
Because you could be sort of presented with any kind of a site potentially, couldn't you? Like anywhere, like on, well, for example, like a hugely sloping block or something like that, or some, like perhaps got some
Rocks.
unusual, material to build on and what have you.
Or a really tight site with neighbours all around. Yeah, we have, every site is so unique. Every client brief and what they want and need is very unique, and budgets as well, and their values and what they need. So we have to tease out all the priorities and work. I always say it's like a giant puzzle, just collecting all those pieces of the puzzle, and then the solution becomes apparent.
What's your favourite bit?
Oh, I love meeting the clients and really learning about them, because what we do is so specific for that user, for that client. It's not, houses that, like a developer, where we might not know who's going to be the end occupant.
Yeah.
We're working specifically with clients for them and their family, or if they live alone, or who, it's designing a home to meet their lifestyle and improving their home, their life, basically.
And as you were saying, because our lifestyles seem to be changing a little bit, with often the kids staying at home for longer, don't they? And that's a challenge, isn't it, to design a house where you're all in together, sort of thing, like when you're little, but as people grow older, they want more privacy, so you need to be able to adapt. Telina's nodding. So I think that.
I think there's with our sprawling cities, and Australia's houses are some of the largest in the world.
Yes, stupid.
Yeah, there's better ways that we should be living, and that multi-generational home is often coming up as
coming back into vogue.
It is, yeah. But making sure that it works for all the occupants, and you've got places to have privacy and retreat, or come together as a family. But that's going to have to be more common for our future homes, and to house everybody with growing populations.
And so do you ever actually design, I'm sure you probably have, but I'm a bit of a believer in, I think Ballarat needs more what we call apartments, like 3, 4, 5-storey buildings that are apartments. I don't know why I'm not calling them flats. I think apartments sound a bit more interesting.
Yeah, they call them apartments these days.
Have you ever designed an apartment building?
Not yet. I've done some very smaller multi-residential with a couple of housing units, more on one level, not multi-storey. But I'm very interested in working more into that, in that area, because that means we can get a little bit more density in our cities, where all the infrastructure is, where all the services are, where all the entertainment is, and it's less driving everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think and you can create a real community.
Amazing to see that higher density living in Ballarat, I reckon.
Yeah, there's a great.
Well, there is a big project in street on
Davis Street. Yeah, the Nightingale project that's coming is incredibly exciting from my perspective, because they care about sustainability and community, and it becomes. Yeah. Eco-village is not the right word. That can sometimes put some people off, but it actually creates that sense of you get to know your neighbours and have everything you could have in just outside of
that's
the city
right.
as well.
And I'm sure lots of good friends do this, but I've definitely done it with my good friends. We all say, wouldn't it be really great when we're 70 or something, if we all sell our house and we
live together?
We live close to each other. But see, I can really see that working in an apartment-y type idea. You'd have to have a lift, just in case. You never know if you're going to break your hip. But I think you could sort of, or some company could somewhere specialise in offering that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as you were saying, Telina, close to services and all of that. But let's segue to your exciting current adventure. And her eyes are popping out of her head. It's so lovely to see you excited about it.
I am excited.
Because you're the judge of the Ballarat Children's Art Award. Tell us about that.
I've seen this award happen over the past few years. Margie's done a great job growing it. We had 1,500 entries this year.
Gosh.
And I remember her putting out a post through social media, maybe earlier in the year, about some ideas for topics. And I saw that she put out the idea of my future home. And I immediately responded, oh, that sounds great. How exciting that the kids would be getting to design their future home.
Yeah.
And Cubbies, Creative
Oh,
Cubby
yes.
Project.
That's right.
4 or 5
A few years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah, we did a few of them. But
I think I crawled through a tunnel.
I think
in
you
that.
did.
Yeah.
so it was, and I haven't had a chance to do much of that recently, other than at home with my own kids. So this was a great opportunity to sort of be involved with the kids again and really encourage that creative thinking, those drawing skills, because I feel like some of that gets a bit lost these days with all the technology.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's so important to encourage them as well, so that they don't think that they're not good enough and then they just stop drawing, because I've seen that happen too.
1,500 entries. That's a huge number of entries for a judge to go through.
Oh my God.
And you're the single judge, aren't you? So you've done a lot of looking at artwork.
I have. It's
Kudos to you.
Oh, they've been gorgeous. I roped in my 12-year-old son to have a look over some of them with me, but the decision in the end has been all mine. And my staff members have been looking over my shoulder going, oh, they're so adorable. Really, I would love to award every single entrant a prize, because they've got creativity. Some of them might not be brilliant artworks, but the thinking, you can see the ideas in there.
The kind of things they want to have in their a private home, is it? What are some of the things they were coming up with?
I guess the theme was flexible. So some of them have gone for outer space or underwater, or, there's wind turbines happening, or looking at their own interior bedroom perhaps, and there's like a little art studio going on. So it's been quite varied. And the criteria is about the artistic ability, but also creativity and colour.
Any lolly shops in the corner of the bedroom or anything like that?
There was, I think there was a birthday cake house. That was pretty cool. And there was a few lollies going on. But they've all been gorgeous. So it was really, really hard to narrow. We had to narrow it down to 20 shortlisted for each age group.
So you've got preschool, primary and secondary categories?
Yeah, I think there was one entry from year 7.
But it's mainly primary.
Mainly primary and kinder.
There's something about the drawing of that age group, kinder and primary, that is really very beautiful. Some of my favourite art, the way kids draw that really unconscious kind of line, before they get too conscious about it. There's some beautiful work.
Some of it's just adorable. And it was really difficult that I had to start to put aside and not shortlist the ones that looked like your typical square house with the door in the middle and the 2 windows and the triangular roof.
And the swing outside.
And usually a swing outside and one tree and one cloud.
And the sun.
And the sun.
Yeah.
And they were all adorable, but I suppose the idea about future housing then was having to say, well, that's your typical house.
Yes.
All kids learn to draw, but we need to sort of put those ones aside and start to look at the ones that were a bit more creative and thinking outside the square.
And there's can you think of some really unusual ideas that did come up?
Oh, there was
I suppose you can't give too much away just because when's the prize being announced? It's next week? It's the end of October?
Yeah, end of October. So I've forgotten the date, 29th I think it might be.
No, but it's nothing to do with the winner or anything, just some concepts that were interesting.
What I loved actually was seeing kids attempt to draw in plan view, or, so a bird's eye view inside the house, or a section or a cutaway or a perspective. Some of that was happening at quite a young age, so that was really fascinating to see them thinking beyond just that normal sort of we call it an elevation view, or that facade.
That's true, because, you wouldn't get a preschooler doing, they'd all be facade, wouldn't they?
Pretty much, yeah. But some of them you could see they tried to start drawing that sort of facade view, and then there's a bit of looking from above. They've drawn a bed or something.
So it's a sort of mixture. That's interesting.
It was really fascinating. And I had to keep reminding myself it's not necessarily an architectural award either. It is an art award. But there was a big crossover with that in terms of the judging criteria. But there was, lots of great tree houses or buildings that walked or that flew.
Buildings that walked. That's great.
Yeah, or under the sea, in mountains. Yeah, a bunch of...
Well, look, let's go to another track from my gorgeous CD here, and we'll come back and talk just a little bit more about maybe where we can see some of these works and things like that. Tell us a number, not 2 or 7, between 1 and 9, Telina.
3.
3. Okay, that'll be a track called Unga, Unga Kali from Valanga and Andrea Koza. That was track number 3, Unga Kali from Vuswa by Valanga and Andrea Koza. It's nice to have a bit of,
it's
high
lovely.
up-tempo
I'm really enjoying it.
music in the studio. And Pod and I are talking to Telina Edwards, who is an architect extraordinaire and earthy and sustainable, but also the judge of the Ballarat Children's Arts Award. And she's very excited and stimulated by this pod, isn't she?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must be, there's been a few iterations of this prize now. It's been around for a few years. Margie Balazic has been organising it and running it for a few years now. I'm not exactly sure how many, but it's a huge
it'll be
task.
4.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
Huge,
I think at least.
huge thing to bring together.
Absolutely.
All of those 1,500 entries.
And did most schools in the district participate?
I haven't been. It's been complete blind judging for me.
Oh, okay.
So
You don't know?
I don't know because I haven't looked at any names or any schools.
Yeah.
But I believe that Margie's had great connections with a lot of the art teachers at a lot of the schools. And that's where, there's been individual entries, is my understanding, but a lot of it comes through the schools.
And I wonder if, My Future House, I wonder if there's a gender difference. That'd be sort of interesting to have another look at all the entries and know whether they were male or female.
Yeah.
We spoke about that with me and my staff. They're both women, so there's the 3 of us. And we were a little bit conscious then about gender bias. So, they haven't judged it, I have, but they've been so keen on looking at them. And it's been so hard to narrow down that they couldn't help go past and say, I like that one. And we did... I felt like I had to be a little bit careful as well, that I wasn't just picking all girls or all boys, and it was interesting then to see.
But could you tell?
We played a little game with that actually, and I think a couple we could really tell. It was quite obvious, and others we got it wrong. Because I didn't see who it was, but they said no, you got that wrong, and that one was right. So I was hoping that there was no gender bias happening in there at all, but sometimes you could just see there was some bit doomsday future, a bit gloomy, a bit of war going on, a
few weapons,
protection mechanisms. So, they're clearly thinking about...
That's understandable.
The future.
If they watch the news.
Yeah, but then others were there were love hearts and rainbows everywhere, and gardens and flowers and animals, and they were adorable, and... you don't want to put that on one gender or the other.
No. And I was just saying off air that one thing that I find about children's writing or children's drawing is that it's just so inspiring, because they think... Well, it seems as if they think a little bit differently from me. Of course, I'm generalising, but Telina, you were saying a house that walks, or a house that flies. I just find that
it's really important
exciting
to have that in the mix of, any discussions you're having about, future design and compassionate cities and, how we can do things better. To have those really way out ideas in the mix, like
absolutely,
maybe somebody could design a house that turns somehow. Maybe that is a really valid, interesting, good idea.
I think a house that turns around according to the seasons is terrific.
Yeah, like wouldn't it be great if some of those minds could be coming to those events like that we were talking about earlier, about, those round table designing, how the city's going to work and how we can improve and all that kind of thing.
Oh, yes, those sorts of talks.
Young,
absolutely,
fresh minds there with their great, wacky, funny ideas.
Until they get too moulded and put in boxes and institutionalised to only think in a particular way.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is that often their ideas are very funny.
Yeah.
And they've got that real kind of absurd kind of... outlook perhaps. And I personally, I find that really, I love that.
Yeah.
There's a bit of absurdism there. It's
Absolute
important.
quirkiness.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And humour and, looking at the world through that other lens.
I can just imagine, a 5-year-old or 6-year-old walking into, say, a really formal office and saying, what's this? Pointing to the big desk or something. Just a really, really basic question, sort of go, never thought about that. Or just how nobody's can communicate with each other or something.
And they'd have ideas how to make it a bit more fun, and we all need
Yeah,
a bit
wouldn't they?
more fun and play, don't we? So
That'd be
Indeed.
quite a good idea to, have a visit by a kinder group.
yeah. Well, there's a whole movement with offices being designed by Google and, big corporations where they are incorporating slides and skateboard ramps, and some of it's a bit
More family
bit out
friendly.
there.
Oh, a
Well,
slide between offices.
Yeah, for the staff. Yeah, for the staff there. So it's not a boring office with cubicles like it was in the 80s and everyone's sat in their little box with their computer. They are trying to have breakout spaces and make it more fun as long as it's still productive workspace.
Yeah.
Some of them are a bit wacky, but others it's really interesting to see where design's going.
I'd quite like to slide from my first floor office down to the lunchroom a floor below.
Yeah.
That'd be good fun,
That'd be great. Yeah.
wouldn't it? Yeah. I mean, I'd have to walk back up, but I might do it twice to get lunch. Yeah. I like that, Telina. Okay, so are there any details about the Arts Award that we need to know?
The best way to find out anything is to go to the Facebook page, which is Ballarat Children's Art Award. Margie's uploading all the information there about the people who are shortlisted and when the awards ceremony is going to be in a couple of weeks' time. That's the best place. There's no website yet. They're trying to find some funding and some grants, so if anyone wants to contribute, that would be helpful too, because that way maybe in the future artworks could be uploaded onto an online website and everyone can see them
Right. Yeah. That'd be worthwhile.
When we'll share that link later on our Facebook page, the Ballarat Children's Art Award. It's easy to find, but I'll share it as well for people
Yes,
to click
I was
on
going to
and-
say, to be truthful, Pod, it's not we will share it, it's you will share it. Yes, Pod's very good at doing that. Don't know
it's
what
a
kind of
nice,
laugh that was.
Easy. I hope it didn't sound too sinister. I'm just thinking of
don't
Rex
think
right
so.
now, whether he might have to cut that out.
You might have to go. You're listening, Rex? Rex is recording. Our techno expert is recording this show, folks. So, yeah, how's that? Well, look, Telina, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And it's opened up the world of architecture for us to have maybe town planners, architecture people, or people of that genre into the show, because of course it's a very creative industry and thing to do, and unlike perhaps some other arts, it really has a very big effect on a city space.
Indeed.
And that's what I love about it. It is that mix of art and science. It has to be both.
Yeah.
So, using
And-
both sides of my brain.
And sociology,
Yeah.
all sorts of things. I wonder if people are getting sick of Valunga now.
No.
Oh, it's lovely.
Is it?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm running out of numbers between
5.
1 and 9 because
Go
I'm
for
no
5.
good at doing number 10. I'll do. Here we go. This is talking about good morals and things. This one's called Forgiveness, track number 9.
Oh, lovely.
While we say goodbye to the gorgeous Telina, thank you,
Thank you.
and hello to our next guest. You're listening to the Arts Program, or TAP, with Lynden Nichols and Pauline O'Shaughnessy Dowling.
I'm over here, yep.
She is over there. And we have a new guest in the studio, and it's actually a person I've never met before, and it's a person called Sam McColl.
Hello.
Yeah. And Sam, tell us your new title.
So, right now, I'm the Venue and Facilities Coordinator. That's my official title at the moment.
At the BMI.
Yeah, at the Ballarat Mechanics Institute. That's what's on my business card.
Yeah. And how long have you been that?
So I started in that role at the end of January, took over from
okay.
David Darlenberg, who was
Yeah.
on the show last week.
Yep.
So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Such a really great role.
You just started when I came in and did that bit of work with Amy Silimanis.
That's right.
I did the Artist in Residence. I think I came in just after you'd started.
Yeah,
I reckon. Yeah.
I reckon it was probably about the same time.
Yeah. Gee, that time's gone nowhere, hasn't it? So that's a super busy role you've taken on there, isn't it? Because it's such a... We were just talking off air about how busy the BMI is these days.
Yeah, and I think I've actually made it a bit more busier for myself. I think
Well, I'm
since
sure that's
I've been
the
there,
aim.
I've made a lot of work myself. So, no, there's always stuff going on. Every weekend we've sort of usually got something, and if we don't, we've got stuff on that maybe isn't open to the public. Like we've got, private events going on.
Oh, yeah.
We do a lot of, we've got weddings and a whole heap of stuff. And community consultations, city council a lot. A lot of government organisations hire out the building as well. So it's
for meeting
exciting.
rooms and conferences.
Large conferences.
Yeah.
We had Vic Roads in recently for their leadership conference, which was really exciting.
So run us through the different venues that you have actually in the building that people can hire.
So my favourite room is the Minerva space. It's got a whole heap of history, and it's just such a huge, beautiful space. So that can fit up to around 290 people in there. And we have a beautiful raked stage, and so the whole building was redone about 10 years ago up to, the standard that it was back in the 1850s and 60s.
Yeah.
But the Minerva space is part of the original part of the building, the 1859 section.
Right.
And it's just this nice, beautiful ballroom. I love the space.
And it's
so much so that I've moved my office up to that space now.
Oh, have you?
I mean, my office is in
You
the...
can't have an office in the Minerva space.
No, it's in the green room, just attached to the Minerva space.
Because
I love it.
the way the paint and the decorative elements of that room are exquisite, and the beautiful gold sort of detail. It's really beautiful.
Although I do wonder about the light fittings.
You're not on your own there.
But they're by a very swish designer, though, aren't they?
I
Those
know.
lights in there.
Apparently.
They were very swish, but anyway, they can be a talking point.
Yes.
So then there's the Humphrey room.
Yeah. So the Humphrey room is at the front of the building. That's on our second floor, or second and a half floor.
Yes.
That's so that can house about 120 people. It's got a nice piano, a nice warm sound in that room.
It's carpeted and a bar in the back.
A bit of a stage up the front. Houses our baton desk, which is that desk holds a lot of secrets in
What's
that.
the baton desk?
So it's the secretary's desk, the old secretary's desk.
Ah.
And when you open it, there's some nice letters on the inside that were written by Batten and written from other people to Batten.
Who's Batten?
So he was one of our secretaries of the Mechanics Institute.
Early.
In the 1920s, I think.
Right.
Is it something that the public can see when they go into the building? Or
So because it's locked up.
But they're all just still stored in there.
Yeah, there's nailed to the door.
Oh.
He would have nailed them to his door, the door of his desk.
Oh.
There's one that details about how safe Her Majesty's is. When the inspector came from Melbourne, they came and inspected Her Majesty's, and one of the safest buildings. But the Mechanics Institute was very unsafe, and if there was a person on the stage in the Minerva space and there was a fire, they'd surely be caught in the fire.
Oh.
It's, detailed from the Courier.
Well, they would have changed that since it's been updated.
Yes, and then there's another letter about 5 months later with the installation of fire buckets and where the fire buckets should be placed.
Bucket.
So I think that was a bit of a Band-Aid situation.
A bucket to the Minerva space.
I just think it's really fascinating that those letters are still just sort of sitting there. And
I really want to take them out and frame them in a nice glass frame or something,
so that they last.
so that they can be seen.
And what sort of events? I mean, I've got a bit of an idea, but tell our listeners what type of events might happen in the Humphrey room.
Everything. So,
what doesn't happen
exactly?
In there? It would be easier.
No, we do a lot of weddings and stuff in there.
That's where the Twilight Talks are too, aren't they?
Yes,
in that
Twilight
space?
Talks starting Friday.
Yes.
First one for this season is back again this Friday, which is I forget the person's name. I've got it written down, but it's they're talking about the names behind the gates of the old Ballarat cemetery.
Oh, yes.
So
that's
that should be something a bit different
pertinent.
and interesting.
The names behind the gates.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
I think it's just the name, talking about the different graves and stuff in the old Ballarat cemetery.
Oh, and maybe do the gates to our cemeteries have names? Like there's something or other, something gate?
Yeah, maybe. I
Maybe
guess
it's
you'll have to
that.
come to the talk and find out.
Well, and when's the talk on Friday?
So Friday 5:30 is when our Twilight Talks are hosted every most Fridays during the year.
Most Fridays.
Most Fridays, yeah. So we have 4 seasons, and they sort of coincide with school and the school terms.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's usually 8 nights in a season.
Right.
Yeah. So
So
$6
5:30 to 6:30 sort of
it's
thing?
5:30 to 7. Yeah, I mean it's $6 for members or $10 for non-members.
Yeah.
And there's wine and
nibblies and what have you, isn't there?
stuff already sorted when you walk in the door.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And now I'm just thinking of another space that people can utilise, and I know it's downstairs,
Yep. So we have
just
one on
past the stairway.
That's it. So we have one on the ground floor, the Hooper Room. That's where we have our chess club. A lot of different classes happen there weekly. Meditation classes as well. It's used. That one is probably our most frequently used room.
So is that basically, I'm just thinking of meditation and chess, like one needs tables and one doesn't. So you've got furniture that moves
that's
in
it.
and out.
So we have just chairs and tables that sit in the corner, and they just use them as much as they need. But yeah, it's one of the original homes of the chess club. So we have this photo from I think it's the 1920s or 1930s, and it's a photo of the chess club back then in the Hooper Room, set up with their nice old wooden chess tables and really stunning. And then they took one more recently in 2015 of the chess club set up and sitting sort of in the same position. So it's really nice that the chess club get to use the same room that they'd been using all that time ago. Really, really nice to have them in there.
And one of another beautiful room, and of course I've been lucky enough to work in there, is the reading room, which I think is a bit of a favourite with people, isn't it? You know, with the big desk in there and the
nice stairway. And it is.
But I know when I worked there doing the artist in residence, people were a bit nervous about coming in. There was often that sort of people would say, "Oh, I remember coming in here years ago," but people sort of get that little bit of a feeling of intimidation about coming in. I think partly because of I think sometimes old institutions can have that effect on people. I know that can happen at art galleries and things like that, but. But it is a very welcoming place. I know people are very welcome to go in there and check out the reading room, aren't they?
Yeah,
and
we've kind of done a little bit of, I guess, visual movements in the building where we now make sure that the main doors into the hallway to the library are open. They're both always open now.
That's a good idea.
So it feels like you can go in.
Yes.
Whereas when I first started, the doors would be shut, or there'd be one door shut.
There was a sign that you weren't allowed to use this door.
So now, the doors are open and you can walk through, and Rosemary will be on the library and just have a chat to her, and she'll let you through. And there's a lot of things to discover in that building. Every day, I tell people at least once a week there's always something new that I find out about the building that I didn't know before.
Yeah, lots of different aspects to it. Even in that reading room, like the ceiling is exquisite as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that big, it's like a big skylight. The
Yeah,
ceiling's
yeah.
basically
The reading room's the one with the spiral staircase.
Yes, used to be. It's the original mining exchange. So before the old mining exchange, the main one that everyone knows.
Okay.
That one was the mining exchange.
Really?
So that was the original mining exchange. Yeah, and you can kind of tell when you're standing in the room that it would have been a mining exchange back in the day.
And the mining exchange, and because of the Ballarat Photo Biennale using the actual mining exchange, the present day, well, not present day one, but you know what I mean,
Yes,
the one in Lynden Street. A lot of people have been debating what all those little cubicles were used for. Now, I know we're talking about the mining exchange, but I've always assumed that they were used for different brokers who, like, I'll weigh your gold pod and I'll offer you this, but next door might offer something else. Is that
I think
what-
that's how it was used.
Surely,
yes.
yeah, surely.
and that's what would have been happening in this
Yeah,
space?
so you can kind of tell that would have been the heritage of the place. We do have a nice sort of mezzanine level in that space that shows off the mining exchange and how it probably might have looked. I don't know if we have any photos in our collection of the old mining exchange. But no, it's very interesting that would have been the mining exchange.
Because it's quite
Indeed.
small,
Valuable
really.
asset to us to have that
Yeah.
attached to our building.
And what used to go on in the basement? Isn't there a famous basement?
Yeah, wow, yes.
It is quite
there's-
famous, I think.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's become more famous now.
Yeah?
Yeah, we've just received quite a large grant from the state government to redevelop that and bring it up so we can actually start doing stuff down there. So we received $175,000 to do up the basement. But yeah, there's a whole heap of different, I guess, stories and things around the basement. There was once
go on, tell us one.
Well, we definitely know that there was probably a smoking room down there, gentleman's smoking room. There's some sort of old graffiti on the roof that would have been created by candles back in the
Yes.
day.
Yeah.
There was
Like by the carbon from the candle.
just writing it out with the candles. You
Yeah.
can definitely tell that that's how it's
And
done.
isn't there the remnants of a kitchen or a catering facility
Well,
down there as
well-
well or something?
Kind of. So there's an ad that we know of that was in, I think, the Courier at the time, that the BMI board had advertised to get a restaurateur in to create the space downstairs and to make a restaurant downstairs. So there's plans sketched out of the basement that has one of the bits labelled restaurant, but we don't know if it ever went ahead. We don't think it did. It doesn't look
Extraordinary.
like
Might
it
have
did.
been a bit
but-
sort of claustrophobic down
Well,
there.
yeah, it would have been a very
Yeah.
interesting place to have a restaurant.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Imagine the
'cause-
smell of the cabbage
smoking
as
room
they
near the
cooked it.
smoking
I don't think I would have visited that restaurant.
No.
I'm going to be honest. But we'll see. Maybe we'll make a restaurant when we do
Well,
up the
maybe you
basement.
will.
And so
sort
you've got this grant. Do you know how it's going to be used yet for that part of the building? or-
So that's being left up to the board and to the building committee.
It'll be really interesting to see what happens down there.
Yeah. So the 175,000 is mainly to make the basement safe and usable.
Yeah.
So at the moment, there's a lot of water ingress that comes in. It floods probably at least once or twice a year. And when we say flood, we mean like 2 or 3 inches high flooding.
Because it's well below
That's
street
it.
level, isn't
That's
it?
it. We have a whole lot of just a whole lot of works that need to be done.
Yeah.
All our newspaper collection, the whole courier collection that we have is down in the basement. So that's from some of the first couriers up until like 2017. They're all stored down in that basement, and they all need to come out. We can't store them down there anymore. So we don't know exactly where we're going to put them yet, but they
So-
can't be down there.
Is the floor of the basement bluestone or
Parts of it are bluestone, parts of it are concrete, parts of it are sort of carpet over concrete. There's a
and are
whole
there
mixture.
different rooms?
Yeah,
Right.
there's very evident different rooms.
So it's a whole
different
city
spaces.
down there.
Yeah.
It's really
It's,
curious.
yeah,
isn't
it is.
Curious place.
There are some rooms that actually also have fireplaces. So it's very, very interesting
Yeah.
the way the space is laid out. There's some rooms that I don't like. There's this tiny little space that kind of has a window, but there's no entry into it. So I don't.
Ooh.
Yep.
Wonder what's
Yep.
in there.
There's about 3 different staircases or 4 staircases actually. So 2 of them go into the BMI, and then one one from the bookshop next door.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's another one from the bootmakers
Oh,
down
right.
next
Yeah,
door as
yeah.
well.
Do you know what those 2 little shops were used for in the past?
I think they've been a whole lot of different things, Lynden.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly 100% sure. The bootmaker has been there for quite some time.
Yeah.
He's been that shop has been there for quite a long time. But I'm sure there are photos. Well, given that we were once the building was once the cinemas, they would have used that as ticketing points
Yes,
as well.
I
So
suppose
that
so.
front windows you walk in, that would have been where you bought your tickets when you went to the movies. So it's very interesting. The different uses and the different things that the building's been. A whole lot of different things that the building's
Yeah.
been. Very exciting.
Well, look, let's go to another track from
Beautiful.
my gorgeous album, and
Am
we'll
I
come
picking a
back
number?
and maybe you can tell us a few events that are coming up.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes, pick a number. It can't be 2, 7, 3 or 9.
5.
5. I was going to say 5 myself.
Fantastic.
This is called Milolo, I think.
This sounds interesting.
Yes.
Rivoniseni mihlolo kaya wakaino rivoniseni roiwona yo mihlolo dikwerakaina lero fuma swinene kambe vanhu va hlupheka dikweni rakaya lero fuma swinene ha swi kota ku nyika vanhu swakudya se va ku cina rusiya cina wena n'wananga se va ku cina rusiya cina wena n'wananga iya se va ku cina rusiya cina wena n'wananga ku cina rusiya cina wena n'wananga iya zoyibona yo mihlolo wale kayo tikera fuma swinene kambe tindu atiko nataku fuleriwo na swakudya aswikona And you're listening to 99.9 Voice FM, and it's Lynden here with Pod talking to Sam McColl, who's the
Venue and Facilities Coordinator. It's a mouthful. It's definitely a mouthful.
There's got to be an
at
acronym.
BMI. And Yes, we were just talking about the different layout that was used, Pod, for the Leonard Cohen concert, which I think worked really well. So
so the stage was on. We had the stage on the ground rather than up on the stage.
Yeah.
in the
Why did you do
Minerva space. That's just what the band wanted to do.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
and it
was-
feels, I think you feel much more connected to what's going on.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because it was on the ground and not up, like in a box almost.
Yeah.
Because the Minerva is a proscenium arch stage. So it's very different because it feels like they're in a box when they're on the stage.
Yeah.
Whereas down on the ground, they're with you and they're
Yes.
there and it feels
More
much more
intimate.
connected.
And
yeah,
you had the long tables with chairs on either side, so that the people that were parallel to the stage, so people in the front row of the table, if you like, had to turn their chairs around, sort of thing. But that was okay. And the people behind could lean. You could listen and lean on the table.
That's what happened. You do that, Memo Hall or somewhere like that in St Kilda. It's all kind of sharing tables, and you have to kind of all in together, sort of just turn your chairs and all that.
and you could
stuff.
put your drink, because the bar was open. You could put your drink on the table instead of at your feet. It was
That's it.
good. Now
Yeah.
tell us, Sam, some of the things that are coming up.
Wow. Well, I know you've already talked about the music at the BMI series that we have. So all of this is something that has been, I guess, the brainchild of Ronnie Frowler from Small Space Music and David Darlenberg, who have worked together to get this thing happening. We received a grant from Creative Victoria of around $14,500 for us to be able to do this, which has been another exciting grant that we've received from the Victorian government.
Yeah,
so
terrific.
much support from the state government to get to help the BMI and
top acts up to regional Victoria,
that's
isn't it?
That's it. So our second night of the series is this Saturday, and that's going to be a jazz composer whose name is Cheryl Dorong Pitt. This is...
It's a very hard name.
I've murdered her
Try
last
it again,
name.
Sam.
I'm so sorry. Here we go. So Cheryl Dorong Pizitkul.
Excellent.
And she's got a group of 8 people who do some nice jazz music. So all of this is happening in the Humphrey Room as well. So a nice warm space, really intimate. Everyone will be nice and close to the performers. And then we also have a solo harpist, very, very unique for Ballarat. And her name is Mary Damani.
Is she on the same bill?
Yeah. So both the same night,
Right.
all in one. We also have, before the night, we have some workshops. So every BMI music series, we have workshops that go along with these.
So is there a harp workshop?
No, I wish. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
No, so the workshop for this Saturday is going to be a drums and percussion workshop.
Oh, yeah.
With the creator of
Ronnie.
the creator of the series. So that'll be very interesting for
And
people
very
to come along
affordable,
to.
those workshops. I think it's only $10.
Yeah.
So you're learning about percussion, rhythm, and what have you.
Terrific.
That's it. I think about an hour, so that happens before the night. So
5:30, I
you do
think,
the workshop and then you go along to the music
concert.
series straight
Yeah.
away.
Great.
Yeah, really good stuff to be happening at the BMI. It's pretty much our own event, along with Small Space Music to be partnering with us. So it's something very unique that we've done ourselves, and to get this grant along has been something that has been amazing. Some of the other stuff that we've got coming up, we've got the University of Melbourne is hosting an event in the Humphrey Room. They're doing like an oration. It's going to be on the 31st of December, so the day before Movember starts. And it's about rural mental health, and it's going to be a talk from the Unbreakable Farmer. So he's going to be talking about mental health and in regional and rural areas, which will be something very interesting. I reckon I'll be going along to that.
Yep.
My mum's driving down from Ararat to go to this as well. So it's exciting.
And you're saying it's the day before Movember. Is this something that you partake in as well, Sam?
Absolutely.
But have you made a head start? Are you allowed to do that?
No, I've got a booking at a local barber to get a full shave.
Because you have to start clean shaven.
You have
do you?
to. Well, the rules say that you have to start clean shaven.
Yeah.
No, so I'm very excited for Movember. I've actually this year Movember contacted me to be a bit of a face of Movember for Ballarat. So that's
is that
very
because
exciting.
you have Mo cred?
I don't know about Mo cred. I don't think When I grow a mow, it's very dirty. I look, especially because I do a lot of volunteering with St John Ambulance, and I wear the wide brim hat and the uniform and the nice big sunnies, and I look like
A bear or
that
something.
really terrible, dirty cop look. Oh, it's not very good. No one else likes it, but obviously
But you
it's
get
for
the job
November.
done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have to do it. I have to
Yeah.
do it. So yeah, that's very exciting from the University of Melbourne to bring that event to us. And then we have a massive conference for Breeze. So the Ballarat Renewable Energy and Zero Emissions Group, they're doing a massive forum on November 10th about the new bushfire reality. It's called.
Oh,
okay.
yes, I've
So
seen that.
yeah, that's going to be quite large. So they're doing that in conjunction with BEN, the Ballarat Environment Network, and with DALP. So there's going to be a lot of large, well-known talkers that are going to be talking about, how climate change is affecting bushfires in Victoria.
And we've all got to face that reality. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people, if they live in a suburb of somewhere, they think, including me probably.
Well, I have
Yeah.
always
Safe.
thought I'm safe in town, but these days I'm thinking I'm not no safer than
necessarily.
anyone
See, you're
else.
quite
No.
close to a particular area that's very wooded
Yes.
and bushy, and
Yes.
I'm not all that far either. And so we can't rest on our laurels.
No, that's for sure.
No.
That's for
Who
sure.
would some of the top speakers be at that event? Do you think?
So they've got some like operations managers and deputy chiefs from CFA, some quite high up people from DALP, the Department of Environment, Water, Land and Planning, and a lot of sort of scientists
And is that for the general public to go
yeah,
to?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
there's posters all around town.
Yeah.
If you come into the BMI, there's a poster in our front hallway, or on our TV. We'll be
And
putting
it's
it
sort
up
of,
onto our TV.
about this is the new reality. Like,
Yeah.
you need to be
That's
aware
and
of.
it's it's their first forum that they're hosting. They're going to do a whole range of forums in the future, which we hope they'll continue at the BMI. On all different topics.
And so that's November the 10th,
that is November the 10th.
which is what type of a
Sunday.
day? A Sunday.
Sunday.
type of-
So during the day.
Yes,
Yeah,
during
great.
the day, yeah.
Well, fantastic. Have you got one more thing you want to tell us about?
Not really.
Not really?
If anyone wants to look at any of the events that we host at the BMI, they can go to our events calendar, which we've just updated and made it nice and fresh and new, and it looks super on our website.
It really does.
And it's Ballarat MI, so normal spelling of Ballarat, ballaratmi.org.au/events.
Beautiful.
That's simple.
And of course,
Fantastic.
people can get a membership to the
Yeah,
BMI, can't
yeah.
they?
So we sell memberships
Yeah.
at the library,
Yeah.
and that'll get you discounted events and get you newsletters and everything else
Yeah.
that we give out to people.
Keep
and
you
they
up to
can,
date with what's happening.
Yeah, and get out books from our library. So we have a
Yeah.
huge library that's always stocked. Rosemary's always buying books.
That's right.
And the
It's
memberships.
not only old books,
So that's
everybody.
it. We have pretty much just a full-on library. Like, we have new books coming in all the time. Those memberships are $50 for pensioners or $60 for general memberships.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well,
Yeah.
look, thanks, Sam.
Thank you
You're
for
a
having
wealth
me.
of information.
Yeah.
And you were very good at are they called anachron, that thing where you have letters and what they stand for.
Acronyms.
Acronyms. Very good. You mentioned quite a few then. They just rolled off your tongue. Well, good luck with the newish position,
Yeah,
and it sounds
fantastic.
like you're doing really well because there's lots of things
heaps
happening.
of stuff happening all the time.
Yeah.
Good luck
Keeping
with your
myself busy.
Movember.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We hope
We'll
to see
see how
your
that
picture
goes.
around as well as
my
your
Lord,
mo.
we'll see.
Here's track number 1 from Voussois. It's called Mlilo.
Ukawena mtwana mama sekusile ahiyelele ahiyelele obopasoba abototi basekonen ahiyelele ahiyelele ukawena mtwana mama sekusile ahiyelele ahiyelele obopasoba abototi basekonen ahiyelele ahiyelele umlilo uyashisa ingane ziphukile shaya bwentwana baleka wetoti sizokushaya kunemulilo khaya wozani don't ahiyelele obo basoba abototi bazekone ahiyelele ahiyelele umlilo uyashisa ingane zipopile shaya wentwana bazobaleka baleka wetoti zizokushaya unemulilo khaya wozani donke unemulilo khaya wozani donke unemulilo khaya wozani donke unemulilo khaya wozani donke umlilo umlilo khaya 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 umlilo umlilo khaya.
Hello, it's Lynden back again. Of course, you're listening to TAP, which stands for, I'm into, what are they, Ken?
Acronyms.
Acronyms. I keep thinking anachronism, but
Yeah.
that's something that's old and you know, it's inappropriate in terms of a time period. So it's acronym,
Acronym. Like pod.
like TAP,
And tap.
pod on tap, and Lynden. Yeah. So that you're listening to TAP, and here we are again. 99.9 Voice FM, and Pod and I are talking to Anne-Marie Sloane. Hello, Anne-Marie.
Hello, thank you for having me on tonight.
Just bring the... Yeah, there you go. And Anne-Marie, I invited you on because you have an exhibition that I sort of got quite excited about. It's called Eyes of the Gatekeeper.
That's correct.
And the gatekeeper means gatekeeper at this new cemetery, so-called. And you are the gatekeeper. Well, are you the gatekeeper?
Well, a friend actually coined the phrase with me when I took over the business not long after the Gatehouse actually opened, and I thought it was quite apt. So
Yeah.
I do see things through the eyes of the gatekeeper and the Gatehouse, and so it's a beautiful experience to be able to be there and to actually look at the cemetery through the eyes of the gatekeeper.
Right. So the Gatehouse building
Correct.
is in Norman Street?
It is the top end. It's 1201 Lydiard Street North.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
So it's right at the end of Lydiard Street, isn't it?
That's right, top of the town, so to speak.
Bang, smack, you bang into it, really.
That's it. Like through the roundabout and straight into the cemetery gates.
So
the
we
beautiful
go from
gatehouses
the
on the left-hand side.
So we go from the jail right down the other end
Hadn't
to
thought
the
of it like that.
cemetery. Isn't that interesting? I've never thought about that.
Cemetery gates.
In terms of city layout, but that's how it was. Yeah,
So the gatehouse was actually built in 1908.
1908.
It's a gorgeous building.
It really is beautiful.
Really gorgeous.
It's like a little gingerbread
house.
I love that descriptive that you gave of that as a gingerbread house because it is very much so.
Yeah,
and to
it's
be
got the
able
little
to
curly.
Yeah, it's filigree and it's beautiful, and the pin tucking's still in such beautiful condition as well. So to be able to host such an exhibition as such to honour the building and its surroundings, I thought, what a perfect
So
location.
before you were in there doing your thing, was there something similar happening? Like
It was a cafe since the early 2000s, and I'm the fifth owner to have taken over since then. But I'm in for the long haul.
yeah. And could people always buy flowers there? Like is that a thing as well?
Yeah, it's been predominantly a florist and a cafe, but as I've taken over the business, I'm utilising the space a lot more and being a lot more diverse in its approach because it is such a beautiful building, as you've both said. And so to be able to create music and photography and art exhibitions and to be more of a cultural experience to be
Yes.
able to go there. So not just to go there as a destination to visit people in the cemetery or the loved ones that are interned, but to actually come and, have a nice cup of coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some Maltese cooking.
So tell us a little bit about, you've got an exhibition coming up. Upstairs primarily, isn't it?
That's correct.
So
It
it's
will
got
be
a-
upstairs in the parlour and in the what I call the banquet room as well. So the
Yeah.
photos spill out into the smaller room.
And it's called Eyes of the Gatekeeper. Now tell us about that. What first gave you the idea to do that?
Well,
even?
I've always been into photography. I actually worked at Kodak as a young lady in Adelaide in the late 80s, and into the early 90s I worked at a Studio 2000 in Adelaide as well.
What did you do?
Well, at Kodak I was actually a customer service assistant, Kodak Express coordinator, and then through there I actually went when they downsized and moved things to Coburg in Victoria. I ended up going into the developing side of things, so really got to know the skills involved with that side of the life of photography, which was really interesting. But working for Studio 2000 in Adelaide as well gave me a different perspective, because being the photographic assistant, you're just handing things and being passed things, but it's also to looking at things in the perspective of the actual image that you're taking itself, to make sure that you've got your composition right and things like that. So I've always enjoyed taking photographs. I've had the pleasure of photographing a few Melbourne musicians, including Sarah Eder. She's a good friend, which I've really enjoyed. Took some incredible images of her in Sherbrooke Forest in the Dandenong Ranges, where it was all blackened, and it was just beautiful with her American tribal dancing outfits on and things like that, and beautiful fur coats. So that was really beautiful. But even going through White Night, the recent one in Ballarat and the ones in Melbourne as well, just having a perspective and just looking at different things and just taking little candid snaps. I don't claim to be a professional photographer. I'm not. There are some incredible photographers around that, especially I've got to know in the Ballarat community as well, that just take my breath away.
Yeah, well, I don't sort of think you need to kind of... I was having a conversation about this kind of thing with someone today. Like, there's never, I suppose, a wrong time to get your work out there. It's always, you shouldn't... I don't think you should wait for some kind of permission or something.
Well, here we are. You're exactly right.
You've got to get it out there and enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's it. This has been the perfect platform as being the proprietor of this business and being multifaceted. I've had these incredible moments where there's been sunrises and sunsets, as you'll see in the exhibition, where you can't believe, like the flyer in particular that I've got with the purple image, that is truly what the sky looked like that day. There's no touching up. There's no nothing.
Yeah, so
it's incredible.
You say in the explanation, the description, an exhibition of candid and untouched photographic images. So what you see is what you get.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So some of them, aren't perfect, and they could be tweaked, and you could do if you're looking at them with a professional perspective. But that's not the idea of this exhibition. The idea is, this is me, the owner, the girl who loves this place, who loves the cemetery as well, and wants to share these images with not only Ballarat, but people who come to Ballarat in particular.
The exhibition this afternoon,
Yeah, you got a sneak preview.
And I did. Very lucky. And just the play of light on some of the headstones, and there's one with an angel with gold. It looks like golden wings, but it's just how the sun would have been shining on that particular bit. And I was saying to Anne-Marie when I went and had a look at the exhibition that the different light made me see the graves with a different emotion. I thought different types of thoughts when it was more darker, and when it was when the light was bouncing off to you. So it's just simple things like that, because they were all in the cemetery. Things like that could come to you, like really simple comparisons.
A different way of looking at a familiar object, perhaps.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that image you're talking about is actually called Larongel, because it's light, it's love, it's an angel, it's the beautiful sunset. That's it. It's just such a gorgeous little image, that one as well. I'm quite proud of that one.
So how many works in the exhibition?
There are 20 and possibly 22. I'm literally, before I came in to see you lovely ladies, I was sitting at home with these two other images going, should I, shouldn't I, should I? So, we could have two more surprise images in there, but there's definitely 20. There's 13 in the main parlour itself, and they spill out into the smaller banquet room.
Yes, because it's a reasonably small space, but so I'm a bit surprised with that number. That's actually encouraging for other people who might want to, in the future, possibly have an exhibition in there. So you're intending to have that utilised as an
Absolutely.
exhibition space.
I actually have exhibitions booked between now and the end of February next year already.
Wow.
So the next one coming up in December is Desh and Lay's exhibition. And in January, there's a lady called Christine. She's actually doing a exhibition of portraiture and landscape work that she's currently working on. So, yeah, I'm really keen to have local artists come and approach me to get a diverse range of artists into the space, not just one sort of genre or one sort of style, whether it's, 3D or sculptural or whatever. I am happy to sit down and talk to anybody.
So, will you have like little opening events for them all, or is it? I suppose it's up to the artists.
Encourage it. We had Sarah Eder do her first exhibition, the artist that I was talking about, the musician as well, and hers was a very laid back sort of approach. So the cafe was still running downstairs and people were coming and going. This weekend's launch is going to be a little bit different. Being my own, it's almost like I guess you could call it a Gatehouse warming party.
Yeah.
So, I'll have a few Maltese nibbles on and a few drinks and things like that. So free entry to everybody. But the cafe will still be running downstairs. So if people still want to come and buy their flowers and things like that, they're still able to come into that space.
So that's happening this Sunday, the 20th at 1 p.m. That starts, is that right?
That's
the launch
right.
event for that.
That's right, and the exhibition runs until the 1st of December.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
And the hours of that little building, they're open. You're open from 8:30 till
3:30 Tuesday to Sunday. So 6 days a week. Mondays is the only day that I'm officially closed, but you may catch me in there some Mondays being a busy girl. So,
So do you sort of, I'm interested in just your attraction to cemeteries, and have you always been interested in cemeteries?
Absolutely. As an 80s child, I was into the new romantic music movement, influenced by a lot of electronic things, and a natural progression was to go into the Gothic culture and the Gothic tastes and things like that. So I've always had a fascination with that sort of thing, and when we were younger, we used to go to cemeteries on a regular basis and have picnics and read poetry and do all those things that lovely, young goths, have time to do in their day and that sort of thing. It was all very poetic. But I've always, even as I've got older, the history behind certain graves and where the origins of the people that have been interned have come from. And I had the pleasure of going through the old cemetery here in Ballarat and, just getting to know some of the history behind that, and in particular the Chinese section. I was really fascinated by that side of things as well. Ballarat New Cemetery, it is so diverse that it literally ticks all the boxes for a tatophile like myself.
A waterfall?
A tatophile.
Tatophile.
A tatophile. That's somebody who enjoys cemeteries and cemetery wanderings. And the
T-A-D?
T-A-D-O-P-H-I-L-E.
Well, there's one I haven't heard before.
No.
Tatophile.
So a person that enjoys cemeteries.
That's correct. So it is actually a terminology, and it is a thing, inverted commas, and that you will find some really interesting documentation, and there's books that you can get in different places from around the world. And there's a young lady on Instagram too, and she's called Cemetery Wanderings, and she too does some beautiful, beautiful photography and looks at the history behind certain gravestones and why things that they are destroyed and the messages behind people's, inscriptions and things like that. Like, it really is. You can go deep and deep and deep.
Yeah, some of those inscriptions sort of go out of date. Like, there's some really old-fashioned wording on
Quite common, you will see Love's Tribute or the Sweet Rest written on some of the graves, and I find that really interesting.
Sacred to the memory of is a common one as well.
The Sweet Rest I find really interesting because that's really prominent around the 1850s. It must have been a thing.
So that might be the final thing that's said.
It's very poetic, isn't it?
Yeah, or Love's Tribute. You can tell that that's somebody with a broken heart who's actually put their loved one to rest. You can feel it almost when you're looking at some of the stories on some of these headstones. That I've had great pleasure in wandering around some afternoons, and now that we've got daylight saving, I'm usually at the cafe from 6:30 in the morning till 6:30 at night, but with the evenings now, the cemetery gates close. And I kind of have my own little playground, I guess, without wanting to, disrespect my environment, because I do. I have such reverence for where I am. But it is amazing, and I'll find new things every time. Like, you'll turn a certain way, or, as you were saying before, Lynden, the light hitting a certain image or a statue may look one way in the morning, but it looks completely different in the evening. And as the botany's coming to life in the cemetery as well, that is taking my breath away. I went to the main office this afternoon. Actually, when you were in having a coffee, I popped up and one of the rhododendrons had started to bloom, and I'd never seen a style of rhodo like that before. So I'm stopping for 2 seconds, taking a few photographs, because it's just those quick moments where you've just got to grab them. And like when the cherry blossoms were in bloom, I took a moment to stand under them and let them fall and take a moment to appreciate everything around me.
And I think we all need to take a few moments, don't we? We're all so busy, doing this and that all the time. And the cemetery perhaps is a way, not only when you go to see your poor lost relative or friend, but it's a big open space with gardens that is full of reverence. And it sort of sounds funny to say, I suppose, but it's reverence for life, really, as opposed to reverence for death, isn't it?
Indeed. It's a respect. It goes hand in hand. I consider life and death to be almost like an infinity symbol, and in Western culture, we are too often told to have a cup of concrete, suck it up, move on. Whereas, we need to incorporate death into our lives so we can deal with the grief and everything that goes with it, because it does change you as a human being. And to support each other through these times, I think, is integral. And sometimes people lose that, I don't want to say art form, but they lose that compassion of actually walking that path with somebody instead of going, just get over it, you'll be fine, all the rest of it. No, take a moment, get through it.
I was listening to something very interesting recently on the radio about this company that designs funerals, I suppose, and designs that end of life celebration, so that it's actually. It was a really interesting program, actually, talking about how you can make that final part of the person's journey like really meaningful and invite people in, and just in really beautiful ways of making that celebration around that particular person. It was a really interesting and really nice way of thinking about that final stage, actually.
Yeah, I really like that concept. There are a few death cafes that are popping up around Ballarat, I've noticed as well, that I'm really keen to get involved with.
And that's where people get together and talk about death, isn't it?
That's right, and what your decisions are going to be at the end of that journey and things like that.
But the Death Cafe is also about opening up the conversation,
exactly,
and keeping that, not sort of hidden away and scary. And
no, that's right.
And the more, I'm just a believer in the more familiar you are with all what we at the moment probably see as the trappings of death, like the cemetery and then the actual casket and the tombstone and all sorts of stuff like that. If you're more familiar with the cemetery as a place that you could actually go there for an afternoon walk.
I just really like this idea of designing how my departure's going to be. Like,
I
this
agree.
music, I'm going to have.
That's exactly
I'm going to have this
at.
kind of food, and I'm going to have this kind of wine, and and really plan it. I reckon.
But I suppose people have been doing that since time Z.
True.
It's a lot more accepted and a lot more common nowadays. But I come from a Maltese culture in particular where it's really important that you go to the cemetery, you wash the headstones, you spend time, but it's mourning, it's still grief, it's still a lot of sadness. And I've had this discussion with my children and they've said, oh, Mum, when you die, where do you want to be buried? And before I even moved to Ballarat, before I had the opportunity to take over the Gatehouse, I said to the children, I want to be buried in a rural cemetery where you have to pack a lunch to come and see me to make it an experience. Yeah. And lo and behold, I end up in Ballarat New Cemetery, and the running joke with the family now is that, well, we know exactly where we're going to be burying you. And I said, in my backyard.
Can I ask you another question about being a tatophile?
Yeah.
Do you deliberately go and visit other cemeteries?
Yeah, especially since I've moved into the business side of things. I've been finding a classic example is that I drove to down to Geelong the other day, and I stopped. I just pulled over as soon as I saw the cemetery there and had a little look. Same experience when I was going to Dalesford the other day. I was driving in the car and went, oh, there's two. And again, I was like, oh, I'm going to go and experience that one. Well, there were the two in particular. So I've always had a desire to go and experience them, but it's the rural ones that really get my attention now because they're the ones that have such history that, they go way, way back and you go, oh, that's really interesting. And it's been interesting with the Ballarat New Cemetery, finding all the unmarked graves. How many of them people are there that are in these unmarked graves, and knowing the history behind them as well?
Yes.
They've left to time.
I just have to play a couple of promos, which I sort of haven't done until now. So
Go for it.
Pardon me, folks. I'll just interrupt. They'll take about, close to a minute or something. So here we go, folks. They're really good promos. Don't go away. Keep listening.
AMRAP stands for the Australian Music Radio Airplay Project. AMRAP is a community radio initiative that works with musicians and community broadcasters to get great Australian music national airplay faster. Over 900 broadcasters now use AMRAP's Air It pages to promote Australian musicians. Check them out at www.amrap.com.au.
Classical Delights can be heard every Friday afternoon from 1 till 3 here on 99.9 Voice FM. I'm Nichols, and I share this show with my good friend Anne Woods, who brings her own inimitable style to the program. You can hear Albinoni to Zamfir, Baroque to Contemporary, and just about anything in between. Tune in for Classical Delights and enjoy the wide variety of music.
So, of course, Classical Delights is on 99.9 Voice FM, the very station that you're listening to. So, just to remind us when and where and what it's all called and what it's all about
The launch
again.
is this Sunday, 1 p.m. It's called Eyes of the Gatekeeper. It's at the Gatehouse, which is located just inside the entrance of the Ballarat New Cemetery. So it's 1201 Lydiard Street North, Ballarat North. So right at the top end of Lydiard Street, right at the Norman Street roundabout.
And maybe people can take their camera and wander in the cemetery.
It's a great idea. And please come and show me images that you've seen or your different perceptions of things that I've taken myself. I would love to be involved in those sort of discussions. That's great.
And I notice you've got a Facebook page, the Gatehouse Ballarat, it is called, I believe.
That's correct, and Instagram as well.
And Instagram, okay.
That's correct.
And so on Instagram, will we see lots of, mainly your photographs, or would it be about
everything that comes into the Gatehouse, things that I've been preparing food wise, the artists that have visited, the musicians that have played there as well, so things that are available to purchase. It's all sorts of things, and it's also to a community and events that I've been to as well. So it's pretty. The Instagram page is very diverse.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So thanks for coming on the show, Anne-Marie.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great to meet you.
Pod, I've got a couple more what's on.
Yeah.
So one is a book launch, which is coming up on Saturday the 26th of October, which is, once again, Saturday week. It's at the Art Gallery of Ballarat. And it's a book launch of a book called Poster Boy by Peter Drew. And who he's calling Poster Boy is the person who has done paste-ups all around Australia, apparently, of people from different countries. They're who are Australians, and they're in their own indigenous, if you like, costumes, like so Kurdish people, Islamic people, whatever. And it's called Real Australians Say Welcome. And that's his little paste-up project. And
his paste-ups have become quite well known around the place.
So there's a book written about Poster Boy by Peter Drew, and the book launch is Saturday the 26th at the Art Gallery of Ballarat at 2:30. Now, you were going to tell people about ephemeral art.
15 Trees, a local social enterprise run by Pauline Philippa, and Lou Ridsdale from the Food is Free Laneway Green Space are getting together and running a workshop about ephemeral art.
Which is, Pod? I know what it is. It's making art out of
ephemera.
Yes, out of bits and pieces like leaves and sticks and flowers.
So it's not necessarily going to last. You might just make it in situ.
That's right. It's work that doesn't last.
So there's Colleen and Lou are going to be talking about what is ephemeral art and how you can make it, and that's on November the 2nd.
And I think they might be making some.
I think you get an opportunity to make some. It's from 10 a.m. till 12 midday on November the 2nd. And the Food is Free green space is at 212 Ripon Street. So that would be very interesting and lots of fun. And I think actually one of the inspirations for Pauline Philippa getting into ephemeral art was actually from one of our previous guests, Telina Edwards. I think has had a bit of an interest in that as well.
Yeah.
So so that's happening. I think that'll be really interesting. The other thing I quickly wanted to mention was Children's Week at the Art Gallery also next week. There's actually a free session for the Early Start program, which is for preschoolers. You need to book, but it's a free session. That's next Wednesday, the 23rd of October from 10 a.m. to 12 midday. That's a wonderful program, working with professional educators, where you can bring in your preschooler and work in the gallery space. It's really beautiful. So book for that, and it's free next week for Children's Week, next Wednesday.
Fantastic. Well, that's about it from Pauline and I tonight.
Yeah, we'll be back next week.
I hope you've enjoyed the show. I can't play our going out music because that sort of flew off the computer earlier in the night. Don't know where it went. But anyway, stay tuned for the Greek show. George is not with us in person tonight, but he's pre-recorded a whole show. So listen into TAP again next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, 6 till 8. And here's the Greek show. Good night, everybody.